All right, welcome back to College Football Addiction. I've got Drake C. Toll to talk a few storylines with us tonight. Drake, how you doing, bud?
Great, TJ. Excited to talk the Big 12 that doesn't get talked about enough.
Well, not to contradict you, but it seems like we're starting outside of that a little bit. So I'm blaming you for the avoiding the Big 12. Like you either live long enough to die a hero or something. I don't know, become a villain. I don't know. It's something like that.
Well, TJ, the second I stumbled upon this, just to cover my bases here a bit, I was like, wow, this is a storyline that's big enough that I think it's going to trickle down to the Big 12 and down to the AAC and to the MAC even, right? This is a report from a national source. I know we'll get into it, that I think we should all take heed to.
So let's jump right into it. North Carolina, Notre Dame, big-time targets for the Big 10, according to a source?
Yeah, that's it. It's not just a source. It's a national source who works for the Mercury News and is reputable, well-known, does a lot of work on the West Coast and for many outlets that you've heard of as well. KSL is one of the big ones. John Wilner says this, and Greg Flugar is the one who actually screenshotted it and posted it. That's an issue worth exploration here, talking about expansion, because North Carolina isn't just any school. It's quite possibly the trigger for the next wave of realignment. The SEC and Big Ten, if they were to conduct a draft of schools not currently in either conference, Notre Dame is first, followed by North Carolina, not Florida State, not Clemson, not Miami. It's Bill Belichick-led North Carolina. It's the Jordan brand in North Carolina that has not been good at football. But what we know, it's not about your wins and losses on the football field. For the better part of 15 years, Texas was not good. Right now, Oklahoma is not good. Some of these expansion candidates, Maryland, who went to the Big Ten, they have not been good. It wasn't about, your prowess to come in and win a championship. No, it's about brand. The SEC doesn't want another SEC champion. The Big Ten doesn't want another Big Ten champion. They want a USC, a UCLA, who will always have the name, who will always have a brand like Jordan, who will always have a little extra viewership because they carry a whole lot of weight nationally, even if it's in basketball. And when you get that, you've got a winner. Clemson is not on the hot board. North Carolina is. Florida State, not at number one, not at number two on the hot board, which is shocking to me. North Carolina is, according to Wilner. And if this is true, I think it goes to show once again, it's less about how much you win and more about what your name means. And obviously the name North Carolina does mean a lot.
So shockingly, I'm going to push back on this some with some things that I've heard, my take on this, kind of where I would find difference here. But you just said this surprises you, not the Notre Dame piece, maybe more so the North Carolina piece. I think everybody would agree. If any conference could get Notre Dame, they'd be jumping, doing backflips tomorrow. You said you'd be surprised by it. Do you buy it? Because I'm going to push back in a minute, but I don't want my take to cloud what you think. What do you think about this?
Sure, I'm surprised that it's North Carolina and not Florida State. That's probably the biggest piece that surprises me. And I know you're a big Florida State guy, and you'll be able to get into more of that. I believe the international footprint that Florida State has is something that you should want, and the footprint in a state of Florida that is so hotly contested in football, having one of its best institutions is something you should want. North Carolina doesn't scream that for me. They don't have the history in football. Bill Belichick is in his 70s. And is a PR nightmare right now. I don't know if those things can carry you confidently into the Big Ten or the SEC. But here's why it wouldn't shock me. The AAU status, their love for academics and being a major school in a pretty strong state in the South, something the SEC loves to collect. Even Missouri and Arkansas, who were ads in the last 30 years of that conference, were the flagship schools of a state that wasn't great at football, but they were a southern state. You kind of wanted to have a map that's got this territory that's just yours. It's what the SEC has done. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. And from there, it is the catalyst. Wilner kind of mentions it. I do think this is the one spot where he's really on. It's the catalyst if North Carolina leaves the ACC for total chaos, total expansion, for schools like Louisville to be in the Big 12, for schools like Miami to vie for the Big 10 and fall to the Big 12, or for NC State to beg their way into a conference and Boston College get left off the table altogether. So I'm surprised by the name North Carolina. I'm surprised it's not Florida State or Clemson, but I'm not surprised by the idea that this could be a move in the near future.
Couple of thoughts. I will agree completely. I think North Carolina, outside of Notre Dame doing something that would shock everybody, which I don't expect, I think North Carolina is the catalyst. I will agree with that. Where I think I disagree on the thought process is I have been repeatedly told, and we may wake up tomorrow, and before I get the time to put this video out, North Carolina might be destined for the Big Ten. But I have repeatedly been told that North Carolina is not the Big Ten's major target, but they are 100% the SEC's major target for several reasons. One, you're exactly right. They don't need more powers into the SEC. Will they probably get some, whether that be Florida State, Clemson, whomever? Probably eventually, right? I don't think that Clemson and Florida State both end up in the Big Ten. They could, but my guess would be no. So I agree with that. I don't think they want more powers. You mentioned Texas not being great, but they've certainly turned a corner, it seems like, these last couple of years. And with the resources and money that they're putting into rosters, I think the SEC hurt itself this year by becoming too there's too much parity, right? Mm-hmm. And whereas the Big Ten is very top heavy and their bigger brands got the better seeds and got more teams in the Final Four and things like that. So I think that North Carolina is a huge target for the SEC. I think basketball factors in there too. The SEC, the highest thought of basketball conference as well. And let's be very frank, they seem to be dominating every sport. Number one in baseball, number one in softball, obviously football and basketball we know about as well. I know that'll upset Big 12 fans, but I do think that North Carolina fits that very well. I think the SEC very much values the flagship university of a state, which is North Carolina. It's not, Florida State is not one. Not that that would preclude them, but I do think that that's why North Carolina is a bigger target, all those reasons. I do think, and where I'll disagree with Wilner's thought, where I'll disagree with the overall premise, he may fully end up being right, and I may end up being wrong. I do think Florida State is a bigger draw for the Big Ten, which seems very, very focused on TV ratings and become a TV market with three different companies, three different media rights companies or broadcast partners that they work with, NBC, CBS, and Fox, as opposed to the SEC, which is just on one. I think that is a big deal. I also think the way that they're expanding, kind of going coast to coast, which certainly North Carolina brings in that coast, but I don't think it would be the market that they would go after, the eyeballs that they would look for. So my thoughts are that I agree with a lot of what Wilner's saying here. I still think, and I agree that North Carolina is even the catalyst. I think them going to the SEC, which is where I think they'll end up, is what is the domino that gets everything else moving. I would agree with that 100%. I don't think Florida State goes to the Big Ten before North Carolina goes to the SEC. I think it all happens the same year, same time frame, but I think they are the catalyst. I'll push back on thinking that they're a major target for the Big Ten at this point. We'll see, though. I don't have a crystal ball just yet.
I'll close my side of the point by agreeing wholeheartedly that North Carolina is going to be that school. We know Clemson and Florida State intend to leave. If a third school leaves the ACC, that's when things are really going to hit the fan. That will be North Carolina, very likely. So they genuinely have to be the catalyst. They have to be. They're the final domino that send us into chaos. And then my other point, TJ, I'm gonna agree with you. I think that Florida State is one right now for me, probably behind Notre Dame, then Florida State. North Carolina, though, is above Clemson. I got to meet and talk to Dabo Sweeney a couple of weeks ago, and I'm always thinking about expansion. Didn't ask him about it, but thinking about it and his thoughts on the program at Clemson. They've built a wild juggernaut in 16 years. His 16 years as the head coach there. But as I'm listening, I'm thinking, man, before that, Clemson wasn't great. And I think when Dabo leaves, we saw Chad Morris, his top assistant, bad head coach. Brent Venables, his top assistant, bad head coach. So when he leaves, I'm not sure Clemson is sustainable past that. So for me, it is definitely Notre Dame, Florida State, North Carolina. Those are the big three to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And I listen, we do really well with Clemson fans on here. This is not a shot. Clemson is certainly a better program as far as football goes, and I know that's why a lot of people tune in, than North Carolina is. They've done a great job with baseball. They're literally top 10 right now in softball. They've had good basketball runs too. I am not diminishing that. I mean, shoot, their women's lacrosse team is really good. I am not diminishing their athletic programs at all, which I think are very, very good. But I do agree. I think North Carolina, from a realignment perspective, that Jordan brand is a little bit bigger. If you were drafting on football alone, shoot, Clemson would be ahead of Florida State. I can admit that over the last, now Florida State all time versus Clemson all time. I mean, then you're having a conversation, right? But over the last 20 years, I mean, I'll even admit that as the guy with the Bobby Bowden football back there. I'd put Clemson ahead. I don't think they're drafting or divvying this up based on football success only. I think there's a lot of other things that go into it. Again, Clemson is not the flagship university of the state of South Carolina. I do think that matters to the SEC. I think the Big Ten cares less about that. But always fun to debate, always fun to talk about